One of the highlights of the 2014 Australian Off-Road Championship is the annual pilgrimage to the Red Centre for the coveted Tats Fink Desert Race. Round 2 of the championship saw many teams travel days to reach Alice Springs in the hope of being crowned King of the Desert. Just to finish is an achievement. To win is a career highlight. But the pressure to succeed never wanes, irrespective of how many times you've conquered it before.
I just love driving Fink. It's one of those tracks, it's so much fun and great to win the event too, but the next year there's only one way you can go. You've either got to win it again or you've gone backwards.
It means a lot because it's our biggest race and it's like winning Bathurst for us.
A 91-strong field was embraced by local racing fans and increased media attention for what was the ultimate pro buggy versus trophy truck showdown, and unquestionably a test of endurance for both drivers and their machines.
To see the cars, what they do over the terrain, it's something else.
The track scares me, and with the whoops and everything like that, it's just one of them tracks that I always stay reserved for.
Essentially, Fink is a truck event, so we thought, well, if we can win at Kalgoorlie, which is what I'd say was a buggy event, pretty much home and hose at Fink, and yeah, how wrong I was.
Despite the trophy truck drivers' aspirations, their efforts in prologue were thwarted, with pole position being won by the number 13 BF Goodrich Tyres Jimco, the only entry to set a time under 5 minutes. Reigning champions Shannon and Ian Wrench were second, followed by the strong 2-car Rhodes racing team of Fink icon David Fellows and championship hopeful Jack Rhodes. Reigning extreme 4-wheel drive Fink class winner Kent Battle put on a show for the crowds. But it was Chapman's Off-Road Racing in the Triton who scored their best ever grid position in 5th and impressively beat the trophy truck heavyweights of 2012 Fink champion Brad Gellard and Bo Robinson.
I think a few of them got a bit of a shock that a car with windscreen got in front of them. But no, it was super exciting to be that far up the field, and yeah, that was something we won't forget for a very long time.
Sunday morning, and the front runners made a clean start for the 226-kilometre run down to Fink through the checkpoints. Robinson and Wrench led the pack, but the sheer brutality of the track was never to be underestimated. The race ended prematurely for the Chapmans. Gellard suffered power steering issues, losing 23 places before rejoining. And front-runner Fellows was out thanks to a broken camshaft after being the fastest racer all day. Wrench was first and fastest to Fink, then Rhodes and the 2 out-of-bounds racing brothers 3rd and 4th. But the unfortunate story of the day went to reigning Fink champion Hayden Bentley, who suffered brake issues after the Bundooma checkpoint, ending his Fink title defence for 2014.
It was such a pathetic rollover. Like, if we're going over the whoops at 200 and went, you'd go, oh, well, so be it, we were going too hard, but the car was definitely good enough to go back to back.
The class battles were just as fierce, with Pro-Light champ Andrew Moles faster than Sean Swaffield. Craig Prettyjohn led Super 1650 buggy. Isuzu Motorsport for production 4-wheel drive. Dan Osinski for performance 2-wheel drive. While consistency was key for reigning extreme 4-wheel drive champ Stuart Slakowski in the fan favourite Gold Brumby. Down at Fink, it was a spectacular scene as local fans greeted the race teams, who got straight into working on their cars for the run home. But one driver with twice the pressure to finish unscathed was Get It Racing's Billy Geddes, who was attempting what no other driver had done before him, to complete both the car and bike races on the same weekend.
You're an idiot until you do it, and then you're a legend. So there's a bunch of people who sort of didn't think it was possible to be done, and then they sort of think you'd give up, and you know you can do it, so you just put your head down and go.
With one of the highest attrition rates in the sport, the Tats Fink Desert Race had already claimed 28 cars on day 1, with more dry and dusty weather making for a challenging race back on the Monday. Wrench continued to make time on roads, while the truck battle intensified between Greg Gartner and Geddes, until transmission failure stopped the F-150 in its tracks. Followed by Gellard, who has yet to finish the great race since winning the event 2 years ago.
You know, it's a tough race, and when you're going to push hard and, you know, and keep the pace that we were trying to keep, you know, things unfortunately can go wrong.
But as the strain of concentration started to take its toll on some, the desert claimed another victim in Tony Falaba and navigator Gary Howe, who thankfully walked away unharmed.
Even though it was a very high-speed roll, it happens in our head slow. We even had time to talk. I asked Gary, I said, you're right? And he said, yeah, I'm right. And then we hit again and again. Once you stop, that's when the panic happened, and we had to get out and make sure we're safe.
While the classes continued to battle down the order, fans, family and friends gathered at the finish line to congratulate the OZ1 Gymco team of Shannon and Ian Wrench, who claimed their third King of the Desert crown 5.5 minutes ahead of their rivals.
Probably the most memorable Fink win we've had out of the three. As soon as the green flag dropped, everything went right.
Second place was a close call, with Rhodes making amends after Kalgoorlie to score his first career podium.
But just to get home and get over the finish line and that, I just sort of couldn't believe it. I sort of achieved what my old man did, you know, sort of a few years before me.
And Robinson finished third, just 69 seconds behind, making it a 1-2-3 for Pro Buggy and for BF Goodrich tyres.
Awesome competition at Fink, you know. Shannon did an awesome job this year. It's just some sort of karma or something like that out there that's not allowing us to do it for some reason, and it's a monkey on our back that we can't get rid of.
Brother Bo held on for fourth outright and the trophy truck class win. Matt Hansen finished fifth, which kept him in the race for the championship. But while teams continued to file across the finish line, Geddes in seventh still had to chopper back to Fink for the final run home on the KTM 450 to claim the Fink Ironman title for 2014.
There is no need for me to do a run again, ever. I did it first, and anyone else is welcome to have a go if they can. I was proud I did it, and yeah, no, that one can sit for me.
Class winners included the Swaffields for Pro Light Buggy after early leader Moles broke a steering rack 10 kilometres from finishing. CNC Racing's Chris Browning and Chris Clark took Super 1650 Buggy. Dan Osinski improved his 2013 runner-up result to win Performance two-wheel drive. Isuzu Motorsports' Bruce Garland and Harry Suzuki gave the new Isuzu MUX its first class win for production four-wheel drive, while Stuart and Jim Zlakowski took class honours for extreme four-wheel drive. So the first two events produced two different winners, with Wrench jumping up to first in the championship, just 50 points ahead of Travis Robinson. But will all that good work come undone as the championship leader heads to a track he's never raced at before? Coming up, the return to the national series of a favourite South Australian off-road event.
The end is near. This November on Edge Sport. The wait is over. It's time to crown a champion. The final stop of the World Rallycross Championship is here. Live World Rallycross Championship 2015, Argentina. Skill, flair, and showmanship. It's high-powered, high-skilled, and high-speed entertainment. Formula Drift 2015. Created by skaters, for skaters. A festival of music, art, and street culture. In celebration for the love for skate. Bowlzilla Spain. Daily drama.
Get the wheels off, start taking everything out.
Behind the scene events. Never before seen footage. Formula Drift Insider 2015. The end is near. This November on Edge Sport. A new global professional skateboarding festival is here at Abra Bay of Getxo, Spain. Created by skaters, for skaters. Catch the best of the best, competing for the inaugural title. A festival of music, art, and street culture in celebration for the love for skate. Bowlzilla Spain 2015 on Edge Sport.
For round 3 of the Australian Off-Road Championship, competitors travelled to the mighty Murray River and an off-road event steeped in history. It was a welcome return for Waikerie to the national calendar. But just as the championship began to heat up, 6 times champion and series leader Shannon Wrench found himself in a unique position.
Yeah, never been here before, so it's all new to us. From what I heard, it sounds like a great little track. Really can't afford to not finish, especially at this event with the one section. If we don't finish, we're going to drop a lot of points.
Many local racers were ecstatic to race against the championship frontrunners on home soil.
It's just going to be fantastic for the whole town, and I was thinking 10 years old I've been coming here, and we're really looking forward to having a bit of a play with the national guys and really having a good crack at it. It'd be good.
But it was a mammoth task for some teams to turn their damaged cars around since Fink, including Hayden Bentley and Tony Falaba, who had both rolled. And there was a different weekend format too, with prologue and the top 10 shootout on Saturday and 5 laps of arduous racing on Sunday, one of the longest tests of endurance all season.
If you speak to some of the old off-roaders around the country, they'll probably tell you Waikerie is one of those races that was always a favourite, so it's going to be exciting.
Local racer Jack Rhodes knew he had to perform strong if he was to be a serious contender for Oz 1, which he did, using his homegrown advantage to seal his first pole position ahead of Travis Robinson and Hansen in 3rd. Brad Gellard stood the lone trophy truck hero among the top 10. But for the first time in a long time, the top 2 drivers in the championship failed to clock a time thanks to an engine miss and electrical issues respectively. As dawn rose in the South Australian Riverland, the heavens opened to give the championship its first wet race for 2014. But starting off the line 2 at a time, side by side, delivered some of the closest wheel-to-wheel action we had seen all year. Rhodes and Robinson led the field in the muddy conditions until 15 kilometres in at the Waikerie Road jump, where the BF Goodrich Tyres Jimco gave up the ghost.
We had an isolator switch internally short out, so our guys do an awesome job. The cars are prepared, like fighter jets. Just bad luck, really.
But luck was again not on side with Extreme 4-Wheel Drive's Clayton Chapman, who rolled before the first corner while challenging for the lead with Extreme 2-Wheel Drive racer Greg Gartner.
Now that car has been through a lot in 2 years, and but it still keeps going, and it just goes to show the safety of our sport. Like, we've rolled it twice now in that car, and roll cage is not damaged, and we haven't been hurt once.
The rules state that you have to stop, but if that rule wasn't in place, you would stop anyway. I mean, it's just common courtesy in my view, and every competitor would do the same.
With Rhodes the man to beat and fellow South Aussies, the Havey brothers, hunting him down inside the top 10, the rivalries continued down the order. Buggy versus truck, class versus class. The close racing intensified as 16-year-old Tanner James drove with immense maturity in 4th before letting the more experienced rivals of Scott Schiller and Aaron Havey charge past. Rhodes out in front wasn't immune from the fierce competition either, having to push harder as Hansen started bearing down just seconds behind. Attrition levels started to rise with the rain. But 2 laps down, competitors started filing in for their service break, with Rhodes himself needing medical attention while the crew worked on the leading pro buggy.
We copped a rock in the finger, and at the moment it looks like she's a bit broken, so yeah, we'll just try and get through the race and worry about it after.
The rain started to ease, but strategy would still be a primary focus for the front runners.
The air conditions very, very trying, very slippery, very skatey at high speed, so keeping us on our toes.
This is my home track, has been for 20 years, so we're under no illusion that it's going to be easy.
Wrench and Bentley made up lost ground to be inside the top 10 with the final 3 laps remaining. Havey and Schiller ran a calculated battle inside the top 5 before being beaten by the terrain, which handed Wrench 3rd place on track behind Hansen and left the door open for the trophy trucks of Gallard, Gartner and Bo Robinson to fight towards a podium finish. That challenge, however, was made easier when engine dramas struck the SMU Racing Jimco after running strongly up the front all day. Subsequently, the current AUS team was within striking distance of P1. But withstanding that pressure, young Jack Rhodes held on to silence the critics and take his first ever national event win at Waikerie with navigator David Polino in what was a career and championship changing moment for both of them.
We couldn't believe it. We just sort of said we finally did it. The team that, you know, support me, I couldn't ask for anything better, and it's been the best way I've been able to give back to them. So.
5 minutes later, the Hog's Breath Cafe Gymco crossed in second, while local fans cheered for Brad Gallard and Scott Modesta, who brought their Toyo Tyres trophy truck home third outright, and the first of a trio of extreme two-wheel drives across the line.
Mate, I'm elated. It's always been a great event, but to go and step it up to a national with 96 great top-class cars, and you know, to get the finish, I've always struggled to finish here, so we've had a perfect run. The truck did not miss a beat all day.
Waikerie was also a turning point in the season for many of the category standouts, including a stellar effort by Michael Marson, who moved from 25th to 6th. And for Laba, who took his second Pro Light class victory ahead of father and daughter team Matthew and Kerry Martin, who scored their first ever top 10 finish after starting 35th. Last year's Super 1650 buggy runners-up Chris Browning and Chris Clark got class win number 2. Same for Paul Yeoman and Mitch Marsden in performance two-wheel drive. While Chapman's off-road racing showed their fighting spirit to reach the finish line for extreme four-wheel drive. With 3 straight podium finishes, Wrench maintained the championship lead. But it was the battle for the remaining places that started to open up. Between Rhodes, now up in second, and despite a battered Tonka truck, Bo Robinson still sat third on points. After the break, the Australian Off-Road Championship joins the exciting World Rally Championship in Coffs Harbour.
Bringing you the latest news and events from around the world. What's new and what's happening?
A very strong run.
Who's in and who's out?
I'm ready to really step up my game.
It's high-speed entertainment, featuring only the thrills and spills.
Goodness me, that's close.
There is always something for everyone. Action Sports World 2015 on Edge Sport. Daily drama.
Get the wheels off, start taking everything out.
Behind-the-scene events.
A lot of new cars, people checking things out. You got the track over here, you got the hot pits over there.
Never-before-seen footage.
Just so freaking fun.
Dive deeper into the world of Formula Drift.
Where we can get boys.
Featuring only the most electrifying and phenomenal moments. Formula Drift Insider 2015 on Edge Sport. One world title. One final shot at glory. Who will be victorious? World Surf League 2015. The Target Maui Pro. Live on Edge Sport.
The penultimate round of 2014 saw the Australian Off-Road Championship return to Coffs Harbour on the picturesque Coffs coast of New South Wales. After joining the World Rally Championship for the first time last year, fans and rally stars turned out again to welcome the off-roaders, who thrilled crowds at the Friday Super Special stage. But while the fanfare of the Rally Australia Motorsport Festival was familiar, 30 kilometres north saw a new track built through the lower Bucka State Forest. It created a level playing field between seasoned veterans and fresh faces, but would also be pivotal in the hunt for AUS One.
Can't afford to have any mistakes, you know. Jack and Bo are sort of clicking at our heels.
It's a good feeling knowing that we're in the hunt for the championship. And the biggest thing for me is that doing it all in a truck. You know, I used to run a turbo buggy and I know what they're like, and that's probably something that I never thought would be possible when we first built the truck.
You know, I don't like to jinx myself, or all I focus on is getting my car ready, and yeah, I think we'll attack it in the sense of just try our hardest and hopefully no mistakes.
After a season of desert-style open races, this weekend's tree-lined sections, old rally stages and compact clay surfaces created a true driver's track. And rain in the region added an extra challenge on race day. The Coffs Coast was where the Pro Light Buggy class title fight really ignited between Tony Falaba and Matthew Martin, with both tussling for fastest times all weekend.
The level of competition in off-road racing at the moment, just to even make the top 10 is fantastic.
Martin would prevail in prologue, beating the likes of Gartner, Robinson and even champion Shannon Wrench, who lost valuable time after an uncharacteristic mistake and had to settle for 6th on the starting grid. It was a mistake he couldn't afford to make, particularly with the pace that Rhodes had, up in 2nd place. Meanwhile, Matt Hansen and Lee Wells eclipsed the field to take pole, just as they did at the event last year.
Yeah, we're not really in the championship race now. I think we're running 4th, so we'll push those front runners, and pretty wet underfoot too, so there'll be lots of sliding, so it'll be a real balancing act.
Hansen got off to a flying start for Section 1 before stray rocks pierced through the Jimco's sump, the latest in a string of unlucky mishaps for the 2012 champions. The battles through the classes started to play out, especially between production four-wheel drive rivals Drew Corcoran and reigning class champion Jeff Pickering, whose return to the season was marred by an early off-track excursion. However, no battle was fiercer than the duel of Gartner and Robinson before fuel pressure issues slowed the Tonka truck.
Really good fun, really good to see two trucks racing side by side, and it was probably good to follow Bo because we'll pick at his mistakes because it was quite wet, so it's always an advantage.
Out of Bounds Racing stablemates Travis Robinson and Paul Curry lost time due to a lap 2 incident which claimed Pro Light's Sean Swaffield but managed to help clear the track for racing to continue. At the end of Saturday, Rhodes was the first home, yet Wrench was the fastest, only just with 27 seconds the gap. But New Zealand newcomers Rana Horan and Clem Christensen impressed the most, finishing 3rd after never having raced their ex-Danny Auric Pro Buggy before.
Very surprised, but the conditions out there are quite a lot like New Zealand, especially in the trees and the mud.
With the fan grid walk kicking off day 2, drivers soon headed off to tackle 5 challenging laps through the Hinterland course. Hansen again suffered engine issues off the start, but the remaining front runners kept Wrench in their sights. Rhodes was on song to catch the leader until hitting a stump at the 20-kilometre mark, breaking a tie rod and ending the weekend knowing he could have potentially thrown away the championship.
Yeah, definitely. Like it's a long road back from if you drop a section. I suppose if inexperienced again, we've never been in a championship battle for anything ever, so the team's sort of new and learning.
Early casualties included the New Zealanders, who pulled out with steering issues after running as high as 2nd. And Travis Robinson suffered a brake fire on the number 13 BF Goodrich Tyres Jimco. Lap times continued to fall as drivers pushed harder. Colin Hunter and Clayton Chapman raced toe-to-toe before a failed diff on the Triton handed Hunter the extreme four-wheel drive victory. Super 1650's Chris Browning outran Mark Cowie, and Race Wheels Australia's Ryan Taylor made up a crucial 37-second deficit to get in front of Falaba for 3rd outright after the Karcher racers hit a tree on the last lap. But after 5 hours of seat time, there was no stopping Shannon and Ian Wrench, who emerged from the forest first to win the Petters Suspension Coffs Coast 400 and take a step closer to another potential championship.
Unfortunately for him, but fortunate for us, once Jack dropped out, yeah, took a massive, lot of pressure off.
And father and daughter team Matthew and Kerry Martin scored their first career outright podium, finishing in 2nd ahead of Taylor.
We knew we were going to go half a ride at that track, but to come 2nd outright to the rest of the field was great.
Yeah, we pushed really hard in that last section because I knew we had to do a lot to catch Tony and maybe pull some time on him, and managed to get in front.
Gartner and Jamie Jennings finished 4th and took the extreme 2-wheel drive class win over Robinson, while Drew Corcoran's production 4-wheel drive win in the 777 Pajero meant the class battle against Jeff Pickering would continue at the final round at Lockyer Valley. With 4 rounds down and 1 to go, the final 3-way fight for the AUS title is next, with Queensland staging the deciding round of the 2014 Australian Off-Road Championship.
The end is near. This November on Edge Sport. The wait is over. It's time to crown a champion. The final stop of the World Rallycross Championship is here. Live World Rallycross Championship 2015, Argentina. Skill, flair, and showmanship. It's high-powered, high-skilled, and high-speed entertainment. Formula Drift 2015. Created by skaters, for skaters. A festival of music, art, and street culture. In celebration for the love for skate. Bullzilla Spain. Daily drama.
Get the wheels off, start taking everything out.
Behind the scene events. Never before seen footage. Formula Drift Insider 2015. The end is near. This November on Edge Sport. A new global professional skateboarding festival is here at Abra Bay of Getxo, Spain. Created by skaters, for skaters. Catch the best of the best, competing for the inaugural title. A festival of music, art, and street culture in celebration for the love for skate. Bullzilla Spain 2015 on Edge Sport.
After a year of intense competition and survival of the harsh Australian elements, it all came down to the 5th and final round of the 2014 Australian Off-Road Championship. The rolling hills, rocky outcrops and creek crossings of Queensland's Lockyer Valley set the final stage for bragging rights and a potential new championship record.
Yeah, I guess if we do pull it off, it'll equal Mark Barros's record with 7 championships. And yeah, Mark's someone I've always looked up to, especially when we started out. So to equal his record, I guess, it would be an awesome feeling.
But the coveted AUS title would also be fought over by fellow BF Goodrich Tyres competitors Bo Robinson and Jack Rhodes, both chasing their maiden championship crown.
When we saw we were actually sort of within a chance, it was, hang on a minute, like what's sort of going on here? It's not, not what normally happens.
It'd be a pretty big feat to put AUS on a truck, so it's a long way off, and there's got to be a lot of bad luck come Wrenchy's way for that to happen, and a lot of good luck for our way, but it's not over till the fat lady sings.
While 2014 had provided the ultimate pro buggy versus trophy truck battle, it had also been a fierce season among the classes, with a record number of drivers chasing their first title at the TJM Lockyer 300, along with one last weekend of fun in the process.
Yeah, we're all competitors in our sport, but we're all great friends as well. So everybody who competes in our sports, they're all genuine, awesome people.
We're all about having fun and entertaining everyone and keeping it real, and we're sitting in a good spot to take the 501, which is great.
The weather on day one was hot and dusty as drivers headed off on an intense 14-kilometre prologue session first up. Wrench claimed his first pole position of the season. Clayton Chapman and Adam Maguire qualified their best in 4th, but mistakes were aplenty. Sam Barnes and Simon Fredrickson were unharmed after rolling their pro light, while the entire paddock held its breath as Michael Marson lost control of the number 32 pro buggy.
We come into that jump, been on a smoking hot lap, we were doing really good. I guess it just maybe a 10 kilometre out too quick and we tipped her over, so we'll probably replace the car from about the point of the front of the engine right to the back. It's one of those things that happen. We'll fix the car and come back next year.
On Saturday afternoon, all eyes were focused on the championship contenders as they began the final 300 kilometres of racing and the hunt for vital championship points. Wrench led Rhodes in Section 1, while Bo Robinson faced an uphill fight back in P5. But the pressure eased at least in his quest for extreme two-wheel drive honours, when fellow class rival Greg Gartner failed to even make the start line due to transmission issues. Other rivalries continued, including Drew Corcoran and Jeff Pickering in production four-wheel drive. And Paul Yeoman just needed to finish ahead of Dan Osinski to secure the performance two-wheel drive crown. But by the end of Saturday, the gap between the front runners Wrench and Rhodes was an unbelievably tight 13 seconds. Queenslanders Tony Falaba and Michael Collins were third and fourth fastest, but despite sitting fifth, the Taylors still spent a very long night fixing gearbox dramas.
About a 7.5 hour pit stop back to Brisbane to work on the car, and we worked through till about 2:30 this morning, and then an hour and a half back, so we got about 2 hours sleep.
With Rhodes determined to dominate Section 2 on Sunday morning, the South Australian clocked the fastest lap time of the weekend, straight out of the box. But after 2 laps, his and Wrench's 1-2 finish from Saturday was reversed, with Rhodes now having the upper hand time-wise of just 5 seconds.
I think Bo's still in contention. If Bo finishes the last section, yeah, he'll leapfrog us in the championship, so hopefully hold Shannon off and get it to the finish line as well.
Yeah, it's going to be a sprint home, and hopefully we can make up that 5 seconds, and yeah, the win at the end of the year would be great.
In the classes, Gartner was back in the fold and on a mission, gaining 10 places even after ploughing through a fence line.
Checking out the diff and replacing the brake line. We just had no brakes for 30 kilometres, but everything looks okay, so service it up and get back into it and we should be good.
While their rivals, Tonka Out of Bounds Racing, had to replace a steering pump in record time in the hope of starting Section 3. The Chapman's woes continued with drive issues.
Broke a rear drive flange in the first lap, so we did the lap in 3-wheel drive, went back out going strong, we passed a couple of cars, then the back diffs just packed it in.
But with enough of a points lead over their competitors, the young Queenslanders were safe to claim their first extreme four-wheel drive class title early.
It's all been very hard. A lot of work goes into these cars and what we do, travelling around the country, time and money. So, yeah, to have that 801, to win that title, it's indescribable almost because of the effort you do put in. To have that reward is something that we strive for every day.
So after 5 events and 11 sections of racing, there was just 100 kilometres of competition left for 2014. After a trying weekend, Robinson was now too far back to challenge for the title. But that didn't stop Rhodes and Wrench out in front. But then, disaster for the South Australian, with a flat tyre causing the number 91 Jimco team to pull into the pits. Would this cost them a podium finish for the season? Or would it be the break Robinson needed to bring the Tonka truck home in front? Coming up, the final lap of racing and the crowning of the Australian off-road champion.